Shalom, my friends, this is Max Joseph. I'm here because it is the 10th of the month, which means that it is time for the top 10s. As you might guess, every 10th day of the month, I'm going to release a video of some sort of top 10 ranking. So this first one will be my top 10 movies of the decade. But before I tell you, please make sure you like this video and subscribe to my channel, and ding that little bell to get notified whenever I post new videos. Here are my top 10 movies of the decade. Number 10 is 8th Grade. I think that not only is this one of the best movies of the decade, I think it is one of the most important movies of the decade and should be a required viewing to every human, and more importantly, people who are in school. We meet our protagonist, Kayla, played masterfully and organically by Elsie Fisher, who isn't your standard popular girl or even your classic nerd, but she's a normal 14-year-old student trying to find her way through her last week of middle school before she heads out to high school. And she's a student you have in your class that you don't really remember looking at, you don't remember if they actually even exist. But writer and director Bo Burnham manages to somehow make her as necessary and important as the captain of the cheerleading squad, to be just as seen as the cheerleader at the top of the pyramid. It's rare that a film is as so self-reflective as this one is. I think that if you went to school, you'll manage to find someone you know, whether it be the cheerleader, if it's the bad boy, the drama kid, if it's just the person in the corner, you're gonna find yourself somewhere. And no matter who you are, this film shows us that you are represented, you are loved, and you are seen. It gives a voice to the voiceless, and most importantly, shows that you can get through it. It easily cracks my top 10 films of the decade. I loved every second of it, and it is a vital piece of cinema that should be a required watch. Number 9, COCO. I should make a list called Top 10 Movies That Made Max Cry. This probably would be number 2 or 3. Now, if you know me, you know my favorite genre is animation. And if you really know me, you know that my favorite studio is Pixar. And if you really know me, you'll know that I think COCO is the best Pixar movie of all time. But if you already know all that about me, you may not know that COCO is one of my favorite movies of the decade. And rightfully so. I think Lee Unkrich's Best Animated Feature winner is a perfect movie. It's Pixar's best animation to date, the story is remarkable, the voice work is magnificent, and it shows a culture and a people that many may not know about. I loved learning about a different culture, different traditions, different music, everything. And it's great when arguably the most powerful animation studio on the planet recognizes other views and religions. But what makes the movie for me is the music, which makes me just want to curl up into a little ball and never get out of bed. And I think the song Remember Me is probably the most well-written song for a movie this decade. Don't quote me on that, I'd have to pray on that a little bit more to get a full ranking, but it is just so perfectly used throughout the film. I love COCO so much, and I can't wait to see 2 non-sequel Pixar films this year. I have a feeling that Onward will be great, and I have a feeling Soul is gonna crush me in half. I can't wait. Number 8, Bridesmaids. Easily one of the greatest comedies in the last 20 years. Co-written by one of the greatest comedic actors breathing today, Kristen Wiig. Bridesmaids is relentless in its comedy. Everyone in that ensemble delivers us a masterclass in comedic timing in every frame. It mostly has unstoppable moments of laughter, but it also has a lot of heart and is able to change so on a dime, but without making it awkward. There are a lot of ridiculous comedies that are similar to this that try and have a hard left turn to get a little emotional, but it kind of just comes out of nowhere and it makes no sense. Bridesmaids is able to give us a lot of heart while keeping the pedal on the laughs. Number 7, JOJO Rabbit. You might say the perfect comedy doesn't exist. My friends of the jury, I present to you JOJO Rabbit. I will be the first to say, as I say it often, I am a Jew. I am very biased when it comes to films about Judaism, and especially about the Holocaust. It's a very touchy subject, and it's a very hard topic to talk about. So imagine making a comedy out of it. Well, enter Taika Waititi. He was somehow able to create a film that poked fun of the most evil human to ever walk the planet, while also writing a heartbreaking story about what happened to the Jewish people and so many others. And I talked about it in my review for Jojo Rabbit, but I think that one of the reasons this film was so successful was because it was directed and written by a Jew. There's just something personal that happens when you're part of something that has really affected you, your people, your community. So take something like Schindler's List, another film which discusses the Holocaust. I don't think that film would have been nearly as powerful as it was if it wasn't directed by Steven Spielberg, who was a Jew. Look at Greta Gerwig's Little Women, a story of 4 sisters. I truly believe it would not have been as magnificent as it was if a female wasn't the director. Jojo Rabbit was no different. I'm not saying nobody else could have directed it, of course not. But I believe that this will stand the test of time because there was a Jewish man as the director and writer. Waititi's script is brilliant. The photography and color palette is delicious. Roman Griffin Davis is a star in the making. Thomasin McKenzie is a force, and Scarlett Johansson arguably gave my favorite supporting performance of 2019. I adore this film. It is hilarious. It is shockingly heartbreaking, and I hope if you haven't seen it, you watch it ASAP. Number 6, Get Out. Probably one of the most memorable films in recent history. It is a brilliant piece of social and political commentary in our country. Jordan Peele's Oscar-winning script is funny, shocking, horrific, every possible adjective you can think of, that's what it is. It redefines what a horror movie can be. Peele is able to pay homage to the classic horror films while creating a brand new way to make a horror film. Without Get Out, I don't think we would have things like Ari Aster's Hereditary and Midsommar. And of course, we wouldn't have Peele's follow-up to Get Out, Us. Get Out discusses racism in a non-inspirational way, like many other movies that deal with race do, where there's some white savior to save the day. And this film doesn't take place years and years ago, it takes place today. So watching something like this unfold, knowing that there are people who view a different race as a piece of garbage is an important lesson to see as opposed to just blindly acting like it doesn't exist. Racism isn't gone, it's not in the past, it is happening today. Outside of the significance and the social, political part, Daniel Kaluuya gives a well-deserved Oscar-nominated performance. Lakeith Stanfield is a genius. Betty Gabriel still haunts me to this day, and the twist that happens is one of the best I've ever seen. It is thrilling, it is original, and I get something new every single time I watch it. Number 5, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. You better believe that this is one of the best of the decade. It's also the best Spider-Man film ever, and it's also one of the best superhero films ever. When someone says there's no such thing as a perfect film, I ask if they've seen Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Why is it a perfect film, you ask? Well, I have 1,000 reasons, but I'll just name 2. 1, the animation. Aside from Pixar, this is the best animated work I've seen in recent memory. They had over 100 animators combine computer animation with hand-drawn work, designed to look like a comic book. This film made me look at animation in a totally different light. It's brand spanking new and isn't the same kind of look we've seen. Sony pushed the boundaries of what an animated film can be and what it can look like. The second reason it's perfect is because of the script and the message it has. One of my favorite parts about it is how they make the point that anyone can be Spider-Man. You can be Spider-Man. It doesn't matter what skin color you have, what sex you are, what your religious background is, what your body looks like, your education, none of it matters. The film makes a point of being inclusive of everyone and open to anything. To most of the world, Spider-Man is known to be a white male, but Spider-Verse introduces the world to not just a young black man named Miles Morales, who takes the mantle from a white male, but we also meet badass Gwen Stacy, who is of course Spider-Girl. We even get the anime-like Spider-Man Penny Parker, aka SPDR, which was an awesome decision to add her because she's fairly new to the Spider-Verse, as she was just added in 2014. We also get Nicolas Cage as Spider-Man Noir, and of course, a genius performance from comedian John Mulaney as Peter Porker, aka Spider-Ham. Spider-Verse, it steered away from the standard animation style. It took a huge risk on a story and its characters, and it is a perfect film, and is more than deserving to be on this top 10 of the decade. Number 4, Whiplash. Dear world, meet my good friend, Damien Chazelle. He directed a few movies in the last decade. One of them was La La Land, another was First Man, but the best one by far is Whiplash. When I go back on the decade and think about the greatest movies I've seen, it would be a shame if I didn't include the film that had me hyperventilating for 107 minutes straight. Its fast pace is ruthless and unforgiving. Miles Teller leads this film with so much passion that it hurts, and was very overlooked that awards season. J.K. Simmons delivers a career and decade best performance. It has one of the best finales I have ever seen in my life. Justin Hurwitz's score is its own character and reminded me of my college experience and hearing people practicing all hours of the day and night to try and achieve the impossible, which is perfection. This film was my tempo. Number 3, Moonlight. I think this is one of the few films on this list where the term masterpiece can be applied. It is an understanding of oneself to fit in where you don't feel welcome and trying to be what you're supposed to be or born to be. It's about a young man's struggle to find himself, and it's told through 3 chapters in his life, each chapter discovering love and grappling with his sexuality. It has some of the most gorgeous cinematography from James Laxton. Nicholas Britell's score is magical, and we are also gifted and blessed with a tour de force Oscar-winning performance from Mahershala Ali. And I actually can't get started about Barry Jenkins or else I'm gonna start crying because I love him so much. So what I'll say in short is that I think he may be one of the best writers and filmmakers we have today. I think he will go down in history as one of the greatest of all time. And I think that Moonlight will stand the test of time as not only one of the greatest Best Picture wins at Oscar, but as one of the greatest films ever created. Number 2, Parasite. My friends, although this isn't my favorite film of the decade, it is one of the best films I have seen in my entire life. This is a cinematic masterpiece that'll be compared to the likes of The Godfather, Shawshank Redemption, Schindler's List, Gone with the Wind, Casablanca, Citizen Kane, you name it, this should and will be in the conversation. Bong Joon-ho has created a top to bottom perfect film. The ensemble, led by Oscar hopeful Song Kang-ho, easily gave us the best acting of the year, and each member of this ensemble deserves to be awarded. The script is genius and has one of the most shocking twists I've ever had the honor of watching in a movie theater. Its cinematography by the mastermind that is Hong Kyung-pyo delivered one of the most memorable shots I've seen in recent memory. There's so much just of all time. Every day, I can't believe what they did for the production design. The whole house, which a majority of the film takes place, was built for this movie. And that house is its own character. The score, it's tense, it's exciting, and makes so many memorable climactic moments. All that being said, to calm myself down, Parasite is a work of art and should be awarded and treated as such, and it should be hung in museums around the world. But my number 1 film of the decade, Avengers Endgame. I've watched this 24 times since I saw it on April 25th, 2019, and I can't get enough. I love meaty films like Parasite and Moonlight, but if you give me something flying and turning invisible, that is my jam. And the Marvel Cinematic Universe gives it to me in full every time. I can quote every single MCU film and can tell you what happens 5 minutes in without watching it. So I had some pretty high expectations in April, to say it lightly. I wanted absolute perfection. I wanted to come out of that movie theater and not know what to do with myself because I felt so fulfilled. And I got that times 3,000. I love that it's told in 3 acts. And I'll be as vague as possible in case you haven't seen this yet, and if you haven't seen it yet, stop what you're doing and watch the movie. Anyway, the first act shows a different kind of tone from the previous ones in the franchise, and it's a slow burn, and it gives our heroes the chance to really show off their acting chops. The second act is a love letter to the fans and the franchise. And the third act is just an explosion of goodness and action, and is where the slow burn pays off. The culmination of 11 years and 22 films, it gives us a cathartic ending to one of the most epic stories I've ever been told. To me, this is a masterpiece. Avengers Endgame is easily my favorite movie of the decade. Those are my top 10 films of the decade. Let me know what your top 10 films are in the comments. And so, my friends, thank you so much for watching. Please make sure to like this video and subscribe to this channel, as well as follow me on Twitter and Instagram at mjoseph492. Like my page on Facebook, which is facebook.com/MaxJosephFilmPerson. And if you really love me, please consider being a patron on Patreon, where you can get patron-only content, guest interviews, giveaways, and lots more. You can even give me a film to review, you can give me a top 10 category to do, or a song to sing. And that video will be dedicated to you. Shalom, my friends.